Have you ever made a promise or shaken hands on a deal and then had that little thought in the back of your mind, wait, is this for real? Like legally real? That's exactly what we're going to break down today, the invisible line that separates a casual promise from a contract that a court will actually enforce.
So let's just start with that big question. When is a promise just talk, and when does it become something more, something binding? Well, the answer actually lies in a pretty simple but really powerful legal formula.
You see, at the very heart of every single binding agreement are these two key parts, a clear offer and a direct acceptance. Offer plus acceptance equals agreement. It sounds easy, right? But as you're about to see, the devil is absolutely in the details.
And to really get our heads around this formula, we're going to need to do a little time traveling. We're going to dig into 7 foundational English legal cases. We're talking stories about things like weird medical devices, farms for sale, even family arguments over horses that literally created the rules of agreement we all live by today.
Okay, first up, let's tackle that first ingredient, the offer. You can think of it as the starting pestle for any legal deal. But here's the catch. Not every invitation to do business actually counts as one. And there's a really crucial distinction we have to make right from the get-go. So on one side, you have an invitation to treat, and on the other, a true offer. An invitation, like a price tag on a sweater in a store, is really just an invitation for you to make an offer to buy it. A real offer, though, is a solid promise, ready and waiting to be accepted. And a famous case made this distinction crystal clear.
Back in the 1950s, the pharmacy chain Boots was a trailblazer in self-service shopping. This created a legal puzzle. When does the sale actually happen? Is it when you pick a product off the shelf? The court said nope. The display of goods is just an invitation. It's you, the customer, who makes the offer when you bring that item to the cashier. The shopkeeper then accepts your offer. And just like that one ruling shaped the entire foundation of modern retail.
Okay, so a price tag isn't an offer. Got it. But what about a newspaper ad? Well, usually those are just invitations too. But there's a very, very famous exception. Get ready for the Carbolic Smoke Ball Company. They published an ad promising £100, which was a fortune back then, to anyone who used their product and still caught the flu. And to show they were serious, they even said they put £1,000 in a bank account. Well, wouldn't you know it, a Mrs. Carlyle used the smoke ball, just like they said, and she got the flu. So she sued. The court sided with her. They said that ad wasn't just marketing fluff. That specific promise, plus the cash in the bank, made it a serious offer to the whole world. An offer that she accepted by, well, using the ball and getting sick.
So, we've got our offer. Now we need the other half of that formula, acceptance. This is the moment the deal is locked in. And believe me, the rules for what counts as acceptance are just as specific.
This case from 1840 teaches a pretty brutal lesson. So Wrench offers to sell his farm for £1,000. Hyde replies with a counteroffer of $950. Wrench says no. Then Hyde changes his mind and says, okay, I'll take it for the original $1,000. But it was too late. You see, a counteroffer doesn't just reject the original offer, it completely destroys it. It's gone. Poof. Forever.
Okay, what about this? Someone makes you an offer and says, hey, if I don't hear back from you by Friday, I'll just assume we have a deal. If you just stay silent, are you legally on the hook?
The law on this one is incredibly clear. No. Absolutely not. You cannot be forced into a contract just because you didn't do anything. Acceptance has to be a positive, communicated act.
And we know this because of a case about a guy trying to buy a horse from his nephew. The uncle literally wrote a letter with that exact line, if I hear no more, I consider the horse mine. The nephew never replied. The court said, sorry, no contract. Why? Because you can't force someone to have to say no. Acceptance has to be spoken or communicated in some way.
So we know acceptance has to be communicated. But what if the person making the offer gets really specific about how you have to accept? Do you have to follow those instructions exactly?
In this situation, an offer to sell property came with a very specific rule. Acceptance had to be by notice in writing. The buyer's lawyers posted an acceptance letter, but it got lost in the mail. It never arrived. The court ruled there was no contract. The key was that word notice. It meant the acceptance didn't count until it was actually received. Since it never showed up, the condition wasn't met, the deal was off. All right, now that we've seen the nuts and bolts of offer and acceptance, let's just zoom out for a second and look at two huge, big-picture principles that govern everything we've talked about so far. Underpinning all of this is probably the most important idea in contract law, the objective test.
It basically says that courts are not mind readers. They don't care about what you secretly intended or what was going on in your head. They only look at the evidence, what you said and what you did.
So, to put it really simply, if you act like you're agreeing to a deal, the law is going to say you have agreed to that deal, no matter what you were privately thinking. It all comes down to what a reasonable person would conclude from the outside.
And our final big idea comes from a really powerful family story. A father bought a house for his son and daughter-in-law, and he promised them, if you make all the mortgage payments, the house will be yours. So they started paying. But then the father passed away, and his estate tried to take the house back. The court said, no way. This was a unilateral offer, a promise in exchange for an action. And here's the crucial part. Once the couple started performing that action by paying the mortgage, the offer could no longer be taken back.
So we've looked at everything from Boots pharmacy shelves to carbolic smoke balls and messy family promises. These stories might be a century old, but the rules they created are completely woven into the fabric of our everyday lives.
So let's just recap the big takeaways, right? First, an offer has to be clear and serious. Second, a counteroffer is a deal killer. It blows up the original offer for good. Third, silence is not acceptance, ever. Fourth, you're judged on what you do, not what you secretly think. And finally, you can't just revoke some offers once the other person has already started doing their part of the bargain.
Honestly, every time you click place your order on a website, you are making an offer. Every time you tap your card at a coffee shop, you're accepting one. This hidden legal code, written over hundreds of years through cases just like these, is the invisible operating system behind countless things you do every single day.
But that leaves us with one last big question. These rules were all built around human interactions, our conversations, our mistakes, our intentions. So as we move into a future of AI negotiators and self-executing smart contracts, will this old code still work? Or are we going to need a whole new formula for what makes a deal legally real?